Hey everyone, and welcome to Single Length School. This week's tip, we're actually going to talk about something I get asked and I see a lot of concerns about, and it's chipping. So we're going to cover a couple things with chipping. A, for those of you who need some chipping tips, I'm going to give those basic chipping tips that you need. And B, for those of you that struggle chipping with single length irons or single length wedges, we're going to cover that as well. So let's jump in. So before we get started, if you're new to the channel or haven't yet done so, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button down below, hit the notifications bell right beside it so you know when we have a new video that comes out. And don't forget, go give us a follow on social media. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram. The handle is @SingleLengthSchool. Over on Twitter @OneLengthSchool. And you can check us out, singlelengthschool.com. Over at singlelengthschool.com, we also just released a new feature, our deal of the day. So head over there, check out the deal of the day, sign up for our email list. We'll email that deal of the day every day, and you can also get that deal of the day on our social media pages. So we're talking chipping today. And before I get into the idea of chipping with one length wedges, I want to show you guys a little new chipping technique that I've been working on. And I've actually got two cameras set up today so you can see me face on and down the line and kind of see a little bit about the setup. And more than anything, it's going to be about the feet and how close you are to the ball. So my face on angle, you guys have me see in the shot. My down the line, I actually have one of the drills I talked to you guys about a little bit earlier for over the winter. I've got my chipping mat down, and down at the other end of the room, I've got my basket. It's a laundry basket. I'm going to be chipping towards the basket today. And I've actually got some of my almost golf balls. They're foam, so I'm not going to break anything today. If you guys need to get any of this, head over to the Our Partners page on singlelengthschool.com. You can find links to different companies that sell the chipping mats, the almost golf balls, different things like that. But let's jump into the tips. So let's start with the chipping tip to begin with. And what we're going to take a look at, and what I want you guys to do to kind of improve your chipping, is something I've been working on a little bit. Now, I have released different chipping tips in the past, more to create solid contact. But for those of you that want to get a little more and have a little more finesse around the greens, this is something that you're going to want to implement. So, to set up to your chip, it's going to be really, really simple. The first thing I want you to do is just get your wedge down on the ground, get it sitting flat. Next thing I want you to do is get that ball in a position where it's going to be kind of somewhere off your back foot. So I'm going to toss a ball down here, and you can kind of see my club there. You can kind of see the ball there. And now the angle is going to be a little bit off here on the camera, but I've got this ball somewhere right about my big toe on my back foot. Now that's kind of our setup, and I'm pretty tight. I'm only about a foot, foot and a half away from the ball. So from here, I want to line up so that my club is square to my target, in this case square to the basket. Then the next thing I want to do is get my feet so they're about a club width apart. So stick that wedge between your feet and see how far away you are. Now, this is where it actually gets a little bit more fun. So now I've got that ball on just at my big toe on my back foot. My feet are about a club width apart, and my club is faced at my target. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take and pivot my feet about 30 degrees towards the target. And what that's going to allow me to do is open my shoulders a little bit so I can get in through this ball. Then I'm going to take my regular grip, I'm going to bend down in my knees a little bit, and I'm going to kind of push my hips out a little bit to the left. So even with my feet turned, my hips are actually going to go at that 30-degree angle as well. And then from here, what I've done is I've created this triangle. So you guys can see it here. I've created this triangle here with my arms and my shoulders. And the key to chipping like this is from here, all I want you to do is keep this triangle. Don't use your wrist. Don't do anything. Just turn with the shoulders and turn through the ball. That's it. So it's just a turn. That's all you need to do. None of this. If you start doing this, you're going to not find good contact. You're going to have trouble controlling the distance of the chip. So all it is just that shoulder turn. And when you go to chip it, it's going to look something like this. And that one actually went in the target. Not bad for not swinging this morning. But that's all it is just a simple shoulder turn. And all you're trying to do is just brush the grass. That's all you want to do is just brush the grass. Now, let's say you want to or need to chip it a little bit higher because you're a little short-sighted or something like that on the green. I want you to set up exactly the same way. So feet, club head width apart, that ball right on your big toe on your back foot. Now the difference is I'm actually going to open that club face a little bit. And when I open that club face, now what I need to do is still get that leading edge square to the target. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk so that that face is open at my target. And from here, now I want to make sure that ball's in line with my big toe, those feet about a club width apart. Now I'm going to turn my feet even more. So my feet are almost at the target at this point because I'm going up higher. And then I'm going to bend my knees, lean forward. And as I said, we're just going to take our regular little chip motion. That's going to help us get the ball up if we need to stop it faster. So you guys will have to play with trajectory on that and how much to open the face, but it's going to be the same concept no matter what. Leading edge towards the target, ball off that big toe on your back foot, turn those feet about 30 degrees to the target, bend the knees, hips forward, create that triangle, and keep that triangle. So that's your chipping tip. That's how you're going to simplify your chips, make it easier to get the ball closer to the hole and improve your strokes and cut down on those cost strokes or those strokes you lose around the green. So let's jump into part 2 of the tip. Part 2 is something I hear a lot, especially because I focus in on one length or single length irons a lot. Part 2, a lot of guys will come to me, or I see it a lot in some of the Facebook groups I'm in. Again, guys, if you're on Facebook and you play one length or single length, go check out some of the groups on there. Playing golf with one length irons is a great one with guys from all over the world. But a lot of the things I get is I can't chip with my 60 that's a one length iron. So what's the difference between the one length wedge and the standard wedge? So here we go. And I'm going to bring it closer over here so you guys can see it. These clubs are almost identical levels off the floor. This one is my 64, which is a regular length wedge. This is my 60 that is a one length wedge. So as you guys can see, the difference is club length, and really maybe 1.5 inches difference in shaft length. But a lot of guys have trouble learning to chip with a one length wedge. So they resort back to keeping variable or standard length wedges in their bag, which I think is a terrible idea, especially when it comes to full shots. When you're talking about a full wedge shot, that's the whole idea of one length or single length irons, is to be more consistent across all of your irons and wedges. And I get it. The chipping can cost you a lot of strokes, but if you do it right, then the one length wedges are perfect for you. And what happens the most is, and I'm going to put the one length down here, but guys will get into their chipping setup, and for some reason it's a mental thing with the one length wedge. They can't get into their proper setup with their chipping, and they feel like they're too upright and this and that. So what I want, and I think what a lot of the guys need to do as you get into the one length wedges and chipping with one length wedges, is first you need to take a couple minutes and just focus on your chipping stroke with your regular wedge, and just focus on clipping that grass just like we talked about at the beginning of the video. Now what I want you to do is take your 1-length wedge and set up exactly the same. The only difference is instead of being bent over as much, you're just going to stand up a little bit. The difference and where guys struggle is when you start getting wristy in the chips. That's where this 1-length wedge is going to cause you a little bit of trouble, because when you get wristy, you're getting more speed because this club's longer. And that's where guys have a lot of trouble. Then you're up and down, then you start blading it or chunking it because you're not keeping the same chipping motion. If you guys keep this triangle and don't do anything with the wrist, you're going to be able to produce consistent chips. And it doesn't matter what kind of wedge you want. So it's just the same swing. Just don't use the wrist. Don't get too fancy and try to, do that. That's where a lot of guys get into trouble with the 1-length wedges. Just nice and simple. Don't break the wrist. The only difference is you're up a little bit more because the club's just a little bit longer. It'd be no different than if you're trying to play a bump and run with your 7-iron versus trying to hit a higher chip shot with a 60-degree iron. You're still going to use the exact same swing. You're just changing the club. And I think that's where a lot of guys get lost. So, let's take a look at a couple. I've got 6 balls here. I'm just going to hit some for you. And I'm actually going to move this just a little bit so I don't hit the camera on the floor. But we're going to start with my 64 regular length wedge. We're going to hit to the basket, and then we're going to use the exact same stroke with the 64 or the 60, the 1-length 60. And you're going to see it's exactly the same. It's the same motion. The only difference is I'm a little more upright. So let's hit 6 chips and see what it looks like. 64 first. And you guys will see that my stroke, now that I'm switching, is going to remain the same. There's not going to be any difference in my stroke. The only difference is my body's going to be more upright. So I'm still going to set up the same. I got that ball off my right toe. Club face is square. I'm going to turn those feet 30 degrees. Bend my knees a little bit. And it's the exact same stroke. And that's all there is to it, guys. And when we're talking about changing your lofts and everything like that at the beginning of the video, you're going to do the exact same thing with your 1-length or with your standard length wedges. So all in all, when it comes down to being consistent chipping with your 1-length wedges versus a variable length wedge, you've just got to keep the same motions, keep the same stroke, keep the wrist out of it, and use your shoulders. That's the best chipping tip you're ever going to have, is to get the wrist out of it, period. And it doesn't matter what type of wedge you're using. But if you can get those wrists out of it, you're going to have a lot more success with your 1-length wedge and start to see the same results that you do with the old style, the single or the variable length wedges, excuse me. So if you guys have questions, you want a private chipping lesson over the internet, you can hit me up, go to singlelengthschool.com, you can shoot me a message there, and I'll set up something to help you guys with learning to chip with your 1-length wedges if you need it. Or if you need a lesson on chipping, period, you can go ahead and shoot me an email at singlelengthschool.com as well. And again, guys, if you haven't done so, hit the subscribe button down below, hit the notifications bell right beside it, find us on social media, and until next week, guys, thanks for watching and keep it in the fairways.